Hello everyone, this is Anne from Odulcina Scrap. We are at the video to learn how to do the French knot rose. And this one is quite cute. And you're gonna see, easy to do. So I'm picking my needles. Don't forget you want the ones that are pointy. And you can look at the size of the needles. You can see that there's a place for the thread compared to sewing where the holes are smaller. If you have ribbon embroidery needles, they just have a longer place for the ribbon instead of just a little thread. I want to do a little clarification about the kind of ribbon. So I'm using 100% silk ribbon, and the big difference is that there's no sides on the ribbon compared to if you take an organza ribbon. You see that there's an edge. Here it's the satin ribbon, and again there's edges. Organza ribbon, there's edges. But when you look at silk, 100% silk ribbon, there's no edges, whatever size. My sizes that I use are 4 millimeters, 7 millimeters, and 13 millimeters. The one you really need, if you have to start with just one, I would suggest 7 millimeters. The 7 millimeters will allow you to do a small rose like that. This is the 4 millimeters, and this is the 13 millimeters. All right. I've put links in the description below in this video with it. They are Amazon links, so you can see what are 100% silk ribbon. I love when I look at the video and someone shares a link, then I have a start to figure out the product. Let's start with a label. This is one of my digital printed on fabric. And for this project, I'm going to start with a 7 millimeters ribbon. Just for the size of it, it's going to be easier for you to see a little bit more at the beginning. Those roses are really easy to do, and they are just gorgeous. So I hope you're gonna love them as much as me, but they are a must if you want to do little clusters, those with the French knots. So you start from the back of the label, of course. You could layer a couple of fabric and laces and then go through the whole thing. Because it's a 7 millimeters, my ribbon is a little bit big with the needle, so I'm using tools just to pull out the fabric, and it goes really well with the tweezers. You leave a little portion there, and you want to use a little pin to kind of pin the fabric and the ribbon. As you see, it's all secure and holds well with the pin. Now you're going to keep a length of about 5 centimeters and do one turn around your needle, like for a French knot. And then you come back and you're going to kind of do slow stitching on your ribbon. That is where the challenge is, especially when you use a smaller ribbon. The ribbon doesn't really have a structure, so you need your two ends, and this is why I pinned the ribbon and the fabric initially. At this point, we're going to do like for the French knot. I remove the needle, I hold the fabric and the ribbon, and then from the back, I'm going to pull the needle to create the rose. So it's a little bit hard. I'm using the tool, and you're gonna see when I'm pulling, the rose will form by itself, and the initial little turn that we did around the needle will create kind of a French knot in the middle of the rose, and this is what will hold the rose on the fabric. Isn't it cute? So let's do another one. I'm going to do a couple of roses there, 2 different sizes, so you can see the difference. And I'm thinking for this label, I should do a couple of roses here and there on the label. I didn't back the fabric yet with other laces or tulle or cheesecloth, because even if I have my roses done, then I can glue or add some French knots to go through all the layers and create a cluster. So I'm thinking that it's easier to just do the roses with 1 layer of fabric, and then you can use just small French knots to kind of create a real cluster with layers of laces and tulle, or onto a bigger piece of fabric for your project. This is why I'm doing my roses only through 1 label. Of course, you wouldn't have that problem if you were using embroidery cotton, but the effect is not the same because you don't want those holes there. So I'm using regular 100% cotton fabric, and the ribbon is a bit big, so I need to pull out the ribbon with my tweezers. But as you can see, it works. We are a little bit out of the range here with the crafts. Let's do another one. So for this one, I'm going to do the turn around the needle the other way, just for you to see that even if you turn the ribbon around your needle upside down or the other way, they both work, and try both and figure out which one you prefer. I realize that I prefer this side because the tension on my ribbon is easier to keep, but really at this point it's for you to figure out which one you love or you prefer. And that's it. That's all you need to know to do those cute little roses. I have another model of roses that we're going to do with silk ribbon. It's going to be part of another tutorial video. It's one at a time. So today we are just practicing those roses, and I suggest you just grab pieces of fabric, you do roses, because in the next video I'm going to show you how to do the leaves, and then we're going to be able to do a bigger project with the roses, the leaves, the French knots. See where we are going. Okay, now I'm going to change my needle because I want to do a smaller rose, and I picked the wrong needle just because I was on camera, I guess. So this one is not as pointy, and it's gonna work, but you're gonna see that I'll have a little challenge with peeking through, doing the slow stitch in my ribbon, because it's not as pointy, so it slides a little bit. But anyway, I'm using the 4mm silk ribbon now to do a smaller rose. So there's gonna be 3 roses all together, 2 that are big and 1 that is smaller. And I'm gonna do exactly the same. So I'm pulling through the fabric, and you see it's a 4mm. I didn't need the tweezers. It worked really great, but it's tiny and it's really small, so maybe it's not the best to start with because it's a bit tiny to do. So I'm doing a turn around my needle at about 5 centimeters, and then I'm gonna do the slow stitching, and this is where it's a bit more challenging for me just because my needle is not that pointy. But as you can see, you can use the needles you have around you. You don't need to buy needles for this first time you use it. But then if you have to buy needles, just make sure they are pointy and that the place where you pass the thread is larger for a ribbon. That's all you need to know for the needle that you have to pick if you have to buy some. So I'm holding my ribbon and my fabric, and then I pull the ribbon, and here you go. We have a smaller rose. So let's do another rose, and I didn't cut the ribbon because it's not that long, but I just make sure that the tension is good at the back. And sometimes I like to remove if there's a twist in the ribbon, but it doesn't really matter. I've pinned my ribbon. Now I can put the tension I want, do my turn around the needle, and do the slow stitch on my ribbon. I'm trying to do my stitches at an equal distance. This will create a more equal petal roses size, but you're gonna see with experience that it's not a big deal if they are not separated equally, and you might figure out which kind of gap you want to create when you do the slow stitches for your preferred size of petal. But honestly, I didn't really care about that, and they all look great at the end of the project. So don't overstress with that. Just do the slow stitch and just pull the ribbon and see the rose being formed. And it's quite amazing, this process, to see the roses taking form on your fabric. In the next video, we're gonna do the leaves, and I'm gonna complete this fabric label to be a cluster with embroidery knots and other layers behind the label, so we don't see the ribbon at the back of the fabric. But for this video, I just wanted to concentrate on learning and showing you how to do those French knot roses. And I'm gonna do one last rose with a 13mm 100% silk ribbon, so you can see how it works with the larger one. So I guess there's no, you could go higher than that, but I think in the silk ribbon it's 13mm, and then it's 32mm, which is way larger. But anyway, I might be wrong there. It's just where I purchased my silk ribbon. These were the choices. So now I'm gonna cut my ribbon and switch to a bigger ribbon so you can see what it looks like with the 13mm. And when I look at the the label, I find there's a tension in my fabric, so I decided to cut those two ribbons. So it's freeing up the fabric. And we don't really care because we're just doing clusters or junk journals. So this won't go through a washing machine or any kind of situation where it needs to be really well attached to the fabric. And at the end, we're going to add some glue there so I can glue those leftover ribbons here and there if I'm really not okay with lefting them there. So that's why I don't care about stitching the ribbons and that kind of stuff. All right, we are now doing the big rows. This one, there's a little trick there because I'm not doing exactly the stitches as large as the ribbon. I guess I should try that too, but I kind of kept a slow stitch gap between my stitches that is not that big. And at the end, when you form the rows, it's kind of a little bit more squarish with the petals because you stitch in the middle and the ribbon is larger. But the good thing is that you're going to see we can play a little bit with how the petals are aligned at the end of the project. So look here, I'm forming the rows and it's a little bit too elongated instead of being round. So I'm gonna pull a little bit on the ribbon and kind of slide a little bit some of the ribbon. I don't have an exact process there. I'm just playing a bit with the ribbon, placing them better, and then pulling back the middle, the center of the rows, which will hold everything in place. You see? It's now kind of round. So a rose is never perfect to me, especially in the shabby chic. I'm not looking for a perfect rose, but I don't want a square rose too. So you can play a little bit like that with the rose. I just find that when the roses are smaller, like you don't really have place to play, but you could technically. So here they are. You have 3 sizes of roses into that project using the 4, the 7, and the 13 millimeters. This is what it looks like. I could keep going on with adding more smaller roses, but I'm going to show you some clusters that I've been doing, and I'm missing the leaves here. I might keep it like that too because we can do roses without the leaves. But this is the leaves that I'm going to show you in the next video. Show you how to do those simple little leaves to kind of complete the roses. So I can tell you in advance that we're going to learn a different way to do the roses, which is kind of another style, and another way to do the leaves as well, which will give another style too. So stay tuned. We're not done with learning different embroidery stitches and ways to do flowers. I guess this series can go up to a couple of weeks because I've been playing with embroidery for more than a year. I hope you enjoy that. It's really, really fun. This was something that I was afraid of learning, and at the end it is pretty easy and so gorgeous. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you in the next video. Bye bye.